ベル？
はい、これで
はいはい。おはようございます。
テスティング、テスティング。
テスティング。
なるほど。
もしもーし、今、ズームから喋ってます。聞こえます？あ、聞こえてそうだね。あ、そっちから喋ってみてもらっていいですか？
はい、こちらルーム A ですか、ホール A です。聞こえてますか？
はい、もっちりです。聞こえてます。
はいはい。
ありがとうございます。
これ使わない。Good morning, everyone.
おはようございます。イェイ。
We'll be starting here in about 1 or 2 minutes.
そうですね。あと1分ぐらいですかね、もう。あと1分ぐらいで始まります。
What hall is this?
こっちはホール A ですね。こっち。
Hall A.
ホール A。
Okay. Hall A is English. Hall B, Japanese.
といっても、最初のオープニングはアレックスとササが話すんで、日本語も英語も混ざってる感じだね。よし、じゃあ、始めていきますか。
Maybe a little more time. Everyone's still gathering in the hallway.
うんうん。よっしゃ。
Should we check on Hall B to make sure they're in there? I'll go look in Hall
わ
B.
かった。はい。いってらっしゃい。行ってる最中に、アレックスもう10時だけど。
Okay.
OK? 持ってきた？
Hall B is good.
ホールビーズグッド。なんかあんまり情報ないけど。よし。じゃあやりますか。もう10時になったよ、アレックス。
Okay, let's
Okay.
start.
イェーイ。じゃあ、DevOpsDays 東京2024にようこそ。イェイイェイ、始めていきます。
Welcome to DevOpsDays 2024. We are very excited to start this off.
よし。まずは MC について。
MC, so please introduce yourself.
はい。クリエーションライン株式会社ってとこにいます、ササと言います。よろしくお願いします。イェイイェイ。
And I am Alex with Inido.
Yes.
Nice to meet everyone today.
よし。オープニングはこの2人でやっていきます。
We will open and also close later today too.
OK。まずは事務連絡ですね。皆さん Wi-Fi つないでおりますか？
So this is the Wi-Fi information. There are also signs, a lot of places with the Wi-Fi information. So please make sure to set everything up with Wi-Fi so you can use Menschmeter, which we'll talk about momentarily.
はい。じゃあこの Wi-Fi 使ってください。そして、オンラインから参加している方もいらっしゃいますので、オンラインの人とコミュニケーション取りたい方は Discord を使ってください。
So whoever's coming online and participating online should be in the Discord room. Can we see anybody in the Discord room now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So next up is Menschmeter.
はい。今日はオープニング、皆さんと一緒にメンチメーター、こういうツール使って、なんかみんなやりとり、質問とかしながらやっていきたいと思います。
So everyone, please sign up for Menschmeter on your phone or just follow this URL. It will give you an opportunity to answer questions and make the presentation today more interactive. So let's give everyone a moment to wait for them to sign up for Menschmeter.
もし入られた方はグッドボタンがあると思うので、グッドボタンを押してもらえると、この右下の数字が上がってきますと。
Yes, please click the like button or the good button, and we can see who's participating in Menschmeter to help us with some of the next questions.
お、すごい。一気に59かな？
59, 60.
結構入ってくれてますね。
63, good.
もうちょっとだけ待ったら行きますか？まだ増えてそうなんで。
Maybe when we hit 70.
OK。
67,
Oh.
68. Close. Two more.
あ、来た。
71, 75, 76. Okay.
じゃあ行きますか。はい。じゃあ最初の練習ですね。今日は皆さんどこから来ましたか？
The practice question is, where did you come from today?
回答してみてください。すると自宅。
From their
出てきました。
home. Belgium,
す
Australia.
ごいなんかグローバルですね。
Wow. Tokyo, Osaka, Pakistan.
東京、大阪はまあ多いんですかね。
Lots of. Although my room, I see somebody accessing from my room. France, Mumbai. Wow.
意外と細か
lots.
く世田谷とか書いてくれてる人もいるんですね。
Yeah, we have people from Setagaya, Shinjuku. Wow.
オースティン。いっぱいいろんなもう日本全国、むしろいろんな海外からも来てくれてますね。
So a lot of people from inside Japan, but yeah, you're right. So many from overseas too this year. That's great.
Great.
Next.
Yeah, next.
Next is welcome to DevOps Days Tokyo.
ようこそ DevOpsDays Tokyo 2024へ。
From all around the world. Very excited to have
Yeah.
everyone here. Oh, and lots of
Okay.
likes too. That's great. So let's talk a little bit about what DevOps Days is.
歴史ですが、もう10年以上 DevOpsDays 東京、DevOpsDays ですね。っていうのは続いております。
For more than 10 years, the DevOps Days conferences have been in different cities around the world.
で、あともう100以上の都市、もういろんな、アトランタ、ジャカルタとか、いろんな都市で開催されているイベントになります。
They are in all the cities around the world, from Jakarta to Denver, everywhere they have them. And they're all locally run by volunteers and people like us.
コミュニティで運営してます。そんな特徴のあるのが DevOpsDays になります。
So that said, which DevOps Days events have you guys visited before?
そう、なんかいろんな国で行われているので、どんな都市の DevOpsDays に参加したことありますか？オースティン。意外と少ないですかね、海外の DevOpsDays。ありますかね？ First time.
First time Sydney, Brisbane, first time. So that's good, good variety. So I'm seeing lots of first time
そうです
attendees.
ね。初参加者が多そうですね。
Let's move on and say, so let's talk a little bit about what DevOps Days Tokyo is.
DevOpsDays 東京は毎年4月、この時期ですね。桜がちょっと散ってきたぐらいの時期に開催しております。
Yeah, we hold it every year in April. Even though the sakura is mostly gone, we had a little bit remaining this year for the event.
で、特徴的なのは海外からですね、スピーカーを招いて発表してもらってたりします。
We are inviting speakers from overseas and within Japan to share lots of good information about DevOps.
歩いていける国際カンファレンスっていうのがキーワードですね。
Our goal here is to create an international conference inside of Japan.
はい。
Let's try another question.
DevOpsDays 東京への参加は何回目ですか？
How many times? Oh, we know lots of first-time participants we saw earlier.
めっちゃ初めて、ファーストタイムの方が多いですね。
Lots of first-timers. And
5回以上はいないですね。
how many times have you participated in DevOps Days?
19、21、22、23、5回。
Oh, 5 times. Wow. Wow. So lots of first time.
なのでみんな初めての方が多いようなので、ワイワイこう話しかけたりできるといいかなと。ちょっとこう話すのどうしようかなみたいな人も多いと思うので、 みんな積極的に話してもらえるといいかなと思います。
Yeah, it'll be great to be able to talk with everybody and a lot of first timers today. So we're all excited. So this year, how did we do with tickets and attendees?
そう、今年は、去年もそうだったんですけど、もう満員御礼って感じで、会場には200人以上参加いただいてます。イェイイェイ。
There's 200 on site, and even this morning, we saw people purchasing online tickets. So it's great to see 200 here, 100 online.
オンラインには100人以上ですね。さっき見たら110か120ぐらい多分来てたと思います。
And 10 folks from overseas are joining us for the event today.
そうですね。今日と明日で10人海外スピーカーの方に話してもらいます。イェイイェイ。
So everyone, what are you looking forward to this year?
今年は何を楽しみにしていますか？どんなのがあるかな？
I
キーワー
wonder,
ドとかでいいですね。
do you think someone will write bento?
弁当？
Bento?
弁当、毎年弁当人気ですからね。ほ
Bento.
ら。出させた感あるけど。AI がでかいですね。多い。
AI. Not I. AI.
はい。はい。
AI. That makes sense.
でも AI 関係本当多いですね。
Lots of AI.
でも多少弁当ビールとかもありますね。
Beer.
あった気がする。
I see some studying on there. Lots of studying.
寿司キーノートもありますね。キーノート。
I'm glad to see that networking is something that a lot of people are looking forward to.
今日は終わったらネットワーキングありますからね。みんなでワイワイできるといいですね。
Yeah, we're excited. After today's event, we're going to have a networking party and we can all talk then.
OK。
So, talking about talking, we want to introduce something called icebreaker.
アイスブレイク。アイスブレイク何ですかそれ？何ですかそれは？
So, icebreaker.
うん。
Please tell us, explain what an icebreaker is.
is、外国人スピーカーと話すことは欲しいけども、言語が難しい。
So the icebreaker is when you want to talk to somebody in English, then it's a good way to start a conversation with somebody in English.
どうやって話しかけたらいいかな？簡単な英語があればいいんだけどな。
Yeah, simple questions, really. Something simple English is kind of what the goal is.
なんかどんな簡単な英語、アレックス教えてよ。
So simple English. Oh, and by the way, you'll see a lot of people who'll put on their name card. It will be in red or pink. English. Okay. That means simple English, totally fine. You can talk to them with that.
もうピンクの人には話しかけまくってくださいということですね。
And the idea is when you see somebody or when you want to talk to someone, use a icebreaker to start the conversation.
OK。じゃあ、はい。じゃあ、やりますか、アイスブレイク。
Yeah, let's but it's not only for English. It's not only English, right? You can also use icebreaker to speak to somebody with Japanese.
OK。はい。OK。
Okay, so let's try icebreaker number 1.
OK。
The question is so maybe Sasa-san will demonstrate for us.
OK。
So please try.
よし。いきますよ。大丈夫？ What is your job title?
Yeah, it's ops engineer.
Great! It's great! Next, one more.
Okay, let's try another one. Great job. Let's
Mm.
try another icebreaker. Okay,
Yeah, one more.
try this.
Oh, okay. Oh, how many members are on your team?
22.
22. Yeah.
Wow.
I'm surprised.
That's a big
Yeah.
team. Wow.
Oh,
Okay, are you
Okay.
ready
Oh, yeah.
for another?
okay.
Okay, let's do
One
this.
more.
Okay, how about this? Can you do
Okay.
this?
Yeah.
Okay,
Easy.
okay, give it a shot.
Oh. Patrick, what programming language do you use?
All of them.
Oh,
Oh,
Oh.
as expected.
Got.
All of them.
yeah.
All right, Sasa-san,
Okay.
you're great at this.
Yeah.
So, you ready for number 4?
Okay.
Okay,
more
let's give
difficult.
this one. All right,
More hard.
let's go.
Okay. Really?
Ah,
In what specific way has Japan? Oh,
okay.
too hard.
Okay. I went too far. Okay. So this is an example of a question maybe don't ask.
Yeah, don't ask.
A little too
Mm.
much there.
Yeah.
So here's some good examples of more ice break questions.
Yeah.
Try to ask.
こういうのがいい。
This is a little bit better.
よし。じゃあ
So-
こういうのをちょっと使ってみる練習とかもしてみるのはいいかもしれないですね。
Yeah. So take a picture of these. Get an idea of some questions that you can ask to each
うん
other. And even Japanese people maybe should try in English too
OK
to。speak.
日本人もできれば英語でやってみましょうか
Yes.
みたいな。
So let's ask everyone another question. What are some good ice break questions?
他にも良さそうなアイスブレイクの質問があれば教えてください。なんかありますかね、さっきのやつ以外だと。
Maybe a question about bento.
弁当
Yeah.
弁当の質問何
What's your favorite
フェイバリッ
bento?
ト弁当あ、
Ah, that's a good
Where are you
one.
from?
Where are
Ah.
you from?
シンプルでいいですね。エディター
Ah,
何のエディター使ってますかみたいな。
right. Which editor do you use? Okay. Okay. Favorite restaurant? That's a good starting point.
ね
A
カンパニーサ
company
イズ。
size.
うん。
In addition to team size, you can ask
うん。
big company, small company.
Oh.
That's good.
Tough question. What is DevOps?
That's a little tough of a question, but maybe good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, these
Oh.
are some
Many questions.
favorite Vim plugin. Sasa-san, what's your favorite Vim plugin?
ゲーム何何すか
Vim, I think it's an editor.
ビムビムって言ったの
That's right. It's Vimu.
リムね。
Vimu,
yeah.
not Vim. Vimu.
Oh, thank you.
These are good
Okay.
questions.
うん。
So now that we've all got some good examples of questions, and we had some good examples,
うん。
maybe let's have everybody try ice
Okay.
breaking.
うん。やってみましょう、みんなで。アイスブレイク。じゃあ、お隣の人とっていい
Yeah, so
とか、
maybe
後ろとか
just to the person next to you, just ask an ice break question.
Yeah. じゃあ、2分ぐらい
Yeah, maybe for a minute or
2
so. Yeah, let's try. And
うん。
maybe go make sure they're doing it in the Japanese room.
うん。
日
本
語そうそう
見てくれ
そうそうそうそうでもこれ
聞こえますか？
聞こえますかな感じ。
すいません。聞こえますか？
Can,
も
can I hear what?
う、もう2分経ってしまいました。残念ながら。
Wow, that was
Reaction
very lively.
いやー、ワイワイしてましたね。ワイワイ、みんな。
Why?
Yes, ワイワイ。
Why?
Do you know ワイワイ？
Why?
Why? What's ワイワイ？ What's ワイワイ？
Why?
ワイワイは大勢で賑やかにワイワイワイって感じのやつです。
So yeah, in a big group of people, why is the sound and feeling of a lot of people talking together.
なんか10年以上前、こういう会議、ミーティングみたいなところで DevOps がワイワイしてるところで生まれてきたっていうので、みんなワイワイしていきましょう。イエイイエイイエイイエイ。
Yeah, DevOps is a place where we're all here to collaborate and communicate. So let's all get together and why?
Yeah. よし。で、次の質問。これ最後の質問ですかね。
Last question.
他の参加者と何についてワイワイしていきたいですか？
What do you want to why and talk about with other participants?
どんなことワイワイしていきたいですかね？どんなことでもいいですよね。
Maybe we'll see. DevOps, that's a good one. What's recent about your work? Challenges they face.
Challenges they face.
Challenges. No one wants to talk about bento yet.
なんで弁当をそんな押してんだ？確かに弁当美味しいんですよ。ちなみに。お楽しみに。
Oh, these are some great topics. That's great to see. Challenges.
AI とかやっぱあるんですね。AI が多い。
Lots of AI. Well, this will be a great time to talk about it.
多分、他の参加者もこういったトピックが気になっているので、こういうところでお話ししてもらえればいいかなと思います。
Yeah, remember some of these topics, and it'll be a great way to start a conversation. So last, let's talk about the conference logistics.
よし、このイベントについてちょっとお話ししましょう。まず、同時通訳なんですけど、イヤホンとかは用意しておりません。Zoom の方で翻訳が流れるので、皆さんお持ちのスマホとか PC を使って聞いてくれればと思います。
It's just about the simultaneous translation, which is only from English to Japanese. For the Japanese translation for tomorrow's keynote, we'll have it in a different room tomorrow.
あと、カメラカチャカチャカチャって言うとみんななんだってなっちゃうので、音は出さないようにお願いします。
Please be careful about taking pictures as not to disturb others.
あとはこれ大事なことなんですけど、スピーカーの方は自分の発表どうだったかな気になるので、アンケートでフィードバックをお願いします。
Yeah, everyone, please fill out the speaker survey. An event survey to the speakers. It's very important to get feedback so they can improve and learn how to do a better talk. So we are asking everyone to fill this out many times after every event. Please fill it out. And if you do so, there will be prizes.
Prizes. 紹介しますか？
Let's talk about the grand prize.
これはグランドですね。
This is
何ですかこれは
？This is famous Japanese onigiri.
Yeah, ツナマヨ。
Maybe we'll find a different flavor, but not guaranteed tuna mayo.
Tuna mayo.
Maybe.
Yeah,
maybe.
Okay.
Maybe. We'll see.
うん。
Okay, next. But that's not it. We have other prizes.
まだある。
Let's go. The next prize is
Supreme Prize.
Supreme Prize.
Yeah.
A luxurious DevOpsDays t-shirt.
Yeah.
Very nice. It may not be black. It may be a different color.
いや、白かもしれない、今日は。
maybe
今
maybe white, but still very nice.
回
Okay,
OK。
but that's not all.
OK。
That's not all. There's
お
also
まだあんの？お
platinum prize.
イェーイ。プラチナムプライズ。今回はこの2冊。
Two different books, but they are in Japanese. So good to study Japanese if you'd like, but for Japanese speakers, this is really the best prize to get, I think.
で、Day1 キーノートと Day2 キーノートの。
Yeah. So from Day1 and Day2, books from Patrick and then Kawaguchi-san. So very, very excited to have those, and you
Yes.
can probably get them signed too.
Yes.
Okay. And again, that's not all. We have one more prize.
One more?
Okay.
Last.
Gold
Gold
prize.
prize. おー、
This is-
若エビスター。
So this is very exciting. This is called Waka Ebi Star. And it is like the collaboration of development and operations working together. This is the collaboration of baby ramen and Japanese sake coming together in a nice, delicious flavor.
そんな真面目に話すちなみに、ここの1階がイオン理会になってて、そこで買えますので、ぜひぜひお酒が好きな方は行ってみてください。
And
Oh.
of course, we would like to thank all of the event sponsors today.
ありがとうございます。
Please visit the sponsors in the sponsor room and talk to them. Without them, this event would not be possible.
Yeah.
And there's also the logo sponsors as well.
いやー、本当に今年いっぱいのロゴスポンサーの方にも協賛いただいてありがとうございます。
And thank you to all of the volunteers.
イエーイ。ボランティアスタッフの皆さんありがとうございます。
And to all of this many speakers.
スピーカーの皆様もありがとうございます。
And of course, thank you to everyone who's attending the event today.
参加者の皆様もありがとうございます。
So with that, now we can begin the keynote.
もう次、もうあと2分でキーノート始まりますね。はい。
So in 2 minutes, we'll start the keynote. But before, let's make sure the translation in the other room is ready.
あとは、キーノートの紹介
So let's introduce our keynote speaker today. And so Patrick will be speaking in just a moment here. He is a seasoned consultant with many roles, who's played many roles in IT organizations from developer to system admin. And he has a keen eye on trying to bridge the gap between these different silos. His passions include fostering collaboration and is known as the father of DevOps. He's the guy who helped start this whole series of conferences. And his goal is to help all these different teams collaborate together to build great business outcomes.
まあなんかすごいいっぱい書いてますけど、本当 DevOpsDays グローバルのところの発起人のパトリックをついに呼ぶことができたので、我々も楽しみですし、皆さんもぜひ楽しんでいってください。はい、というわけでちょうどキーノート始まりますかね。
Okay, so thank you everyone, and let's begin with setting up Patrick's talk. Thank you.
イエーイ。
Good morning. Thank you for being here. Thank you. Today, I'm going to talk about a journey that we have been started on. Who has heard of ChatGPT? Raise your hand. Okay. So we have been on the journey for a year and a half, understanding how to bring these applications to production. It has been very wild, going from the simple chat, then kind of plugins, internet, understanding images, and fine-tuning. It's been a crazy year, right? A year and a half ago, when it hit, I was in a company, and you are there, and everybody was looking at like, we need to do something. So chief of product was really excited about this. Marketing, they could sell all of this, so they were really excited about this. The CFO, they were looking for money, and engineering was sweating because they did not know how to do this. So this is the journey that we learned. I got an introduction. My picture is not important, but I have been in the space since 2009, DevSecOps, doing a lot of that work. Now I'm really excited about AI, and I try to be an independent voice in the industry. So I'm not like specifically selling a product, but I do have a day job, which is VP engineering at Showpad. At Showpad, we've been implementing some of the features in our product. One is that it is an AI-powered search, so it's not just keywords, but it more of a semantic understanding. We have summaries of documents that we do, and for example, we also have a lot of documents, and then we create tests or quizzes from these documents for people to train on. So these are a few examples of what we have brought to production in there. The talk is going to be very similar to the build pipeline. So first, we are building the applications, then we are delivering that to production, then we operate it, and then it is business as usual. Sorry. So I will talk about how DevOps can help delivering GenAI. I will not talk about how GenAI can help DevOps. That is a different thing. It is a lot of the vendors will tell you all this, that you buy more products and they put AI on top of this, and it's a better product. So a lot of people talk about that. I'm talking about doing and delivering GenAI applications with DevOps practices. So first part, build. There are several components to building a GenAI application. The prompt, the text that you type in, the model that you use, the data that you mix in, the API, and then an orchestration layer. We learned that while it is very simple in ChatGPT to type a prompt, that it is to get good results, it is not simple to have reliable results. So we started from the human simple prompt, and then we learned there are very different ways of giving examples. And then you have more advanced strategies like chain of thought, you do it in small steps, or you just say like, do different things, and then in the end, come together as a result. So we as engineering had to learn how this all works, and it took us some time. Then when we understood the top, we also had to learn how to force structure in the output of the results. It was not always that easy to get like a consistent JSON, consistent XML. And then we had to also do validation of the schema. And then if it didn't give a good results, we had to retry. So you see from the simple thing, we learned a lot that it is not that simple. to give you an idea that this is still research ongoing, there is still every time a new way of prompting. This is now from Salesforce. Big companies are investing to get better prompts, to get better ways of doing this. And it is not just use English or whatever language. There is a lot more complexity to this. And then what you typically do is you do this kind of exercises or explorations in a playground. You type in, you can compare the different models, the different outputs, but they will be different. Like the same query, the same question changes the output, even if you're using different models. So we learned that it is more complex to do this. And because we had more steps to do, it is also slower. Like if you have to do one part of the question, then another part, the delay of getting a result back that is consistent is a lot slower than you think. So that was a learning. And then changing something like a comma or a space gives a different result. So small changes can have a big impact on the quality of the result that you get back. And the other thing we learned over the year and a half, when the models have changed, GPT-3, GPT-4, whenever there is a change in the model, the same prompt will not have the same results. So you always have to reevaluate the results that you're doing. So this is the learnings on the prompt. It's not really good visible, but you see that you start having not just one prompt, but a flow of prompts. You do one prompt, then you feed the result to the next part, and you kind of go. So we are seeing a move towards prompt engineering to flow engineering to kind of do this similar kind of questions. Second part, the models. You see the history of all the models going up. Now it's GPT-4. Over the year and a half, we used a lot of intermediate. Like we started in Flanty 5, then we used Llama, GPT-4, and we just continue. So you see, it is not finished. Every time there's a new model, there is a better quality. And so we changed to use that. So it's very, it's a race that you're running all the time. If you want to look for the open source models, you can go on Hugging Face and you can find open source models there to use. The text you type into the prompt has a limitation on how much text you can type in there. ChatGPT, I think ChatGPT 3.5 had like 32K of limit. Now over a year, we have Google Gemini having 1 million tokens. So now you can type in a whole book, right? So it's different from having smaller pieces to one big piece. But if you read a text, you typically read the top of the text and the bottom. You do not read the thing in the middle. So large language models, they tend to forget the piece in the middle as well, right? So this is a phenomenon that we have seen, that it is, even if you type everything in, it is not a better way. So there's a limit that still makes use of doing smaller pieces. The next thing, when you select a model, you will hear about the number of parameters. So parameters as the model, which is like the big matrix, and the number of dimensions of the matrix. It is not always that a bigger model is better. It could be inefficient in the training, but it is also very important for the memory that you use to run the model. So there is a way to do a balance between the compute budget and the model size that you run. So if you're saving costs, it is very important that you look at that. And speaking of cost, it has become cheaper to run the models, but there are always newer models who are then again more expensive. So while it is becoming cheaper, you always, when you use the more recent models, they are more expensive again. There are vendors like AWS who now have specific hardware that is optimized to running kind of these models, so that you can start having like GPUs, but like they call it like inference, to be optimized for running those models. A lot of the models would be run by the cloud vendors, Google, AWS, Microsoft, but you can now run models locally on your laptop. Ollama is one of the open source tools that allows you to run this locally on your laptop. So when I am traveling, I can use a GPT without having a connection. And obviously, I am only able to run the models who are open source because there is the limitations of the license. But you can see that on the top, GPT-4 is proprietary. It is still the best model. But if you look somewhere to Mixtral, number 13, right, that is already having good quality on open source. So it's an Apache license. So open source has been exploded during the year and a half to get better models to run it. Obviously, when you're running models, you have to be aware that whatever you're asking has bias because it's been trained on specific content, so gender bias, and also racial bias. So you have to be aware that this is not a solved problem when it returns your answers. A lot of people are worried that the content that you put onto the internet is being used for training these models. It is only after, I think, 7 months that OpenAI had a solution for you to opt out of their training. It is not enough to say robots text no. There is a specific opt-out solution for that you have to put on your website to say that you're opting out. So if you put the message, the content out there, it is really important. So we learned that this is not ML ops. This is something totally different. We did not train our own model. We used one of the existing models. We picked it based on the window size and the latency. And we learned that over a year, all the SaaS vendors had to catch up on quality. Yes, there was Azure. There was OpenAI, but it was a consumer grade. If you want to have enterprise grade, we had to wait a lot for the vendors to catch up. Open source is getting better. And we think about when selecting a model per use case. So we have bronze, silver, and gold. Like sometimes we pick a cheaper model, but we can run it in batch. And sometimes we need a real-time, high-quality model. So we think about it based on the use case that we are doing. The third part of an application is typically mixing it with your own data. You have your prompt, the thing that you type into your GPT, but you can bring in your own data into it. This is typically called retrieval augmented generation. It looks up all the relevant, if you have a question, it takes the question, it looks up all the information that is relevant to the question, and then it puts that into the prompt while asking the question. So it helps a lot with having knowledge that is not there in the model, but is maybe personal to your company. If you want to continue improving this, you can train the model or fine-tune the model, it is, with your own data. But we have not needed to do this. All of our applications are still using RAG because it has a few advantages. We have a lot of PDF, Word, and kind of similar documents. So we needed to parse all that information, which is unstructured, to bring that into our data set. It was not a database. Now, there are many databases that can index your data. It is called a vector database, which is understanding the meaning of your text and finding the relevant pieces of your text. What you see is that in the beginning, there were very specialized databases like Chroma and Vespa. Now you see the traditional vendors of databases just having that same index and kind of working from there, like Postgres, OpenSearch. So you see a migration of putting this into their own databases. And all the RAG that we have been coding on our own, it is soon going to be a commodity service on AWS that would understand all the documents, that would understand all the databases, and you just connect it and you have your index. So we had to still build this on our own, but soon this will be a service that you can use. And the same thing for fine-tuning. This will just be a service that will be there. You just send it all your documents and say, fine-tune it, and it will have a result. I mentioned in the beginning that we were having an AI-powered search, so not keyword search. And we found that customers are so used to typing keywords in a search that they were not used to typing a question in the search. So your users will have to kind of get used to the fact that they need to type sentences and not just keywords to get a result. So you have to help them. One of the things we did is that we detect that the user enters keywords, and then we translate this to a question internally. So we kind of deal with both situations for a customer. If you have a good data lake, it goes a lot easier because then you have the relevant data accessible. If you use APIs to access your data, you can leverage access control lists instead of doing direct queries. And we like to keep the vector database very close to the actual content. And that's why having a database now with the database vendors, it's a lot easier to keep that in sync automatically. So the nice thing of RAG is that you can do it in real time. Fine-tuning, you have to first process all the data, build a model. So it is a lot easier, a lot faster, and it deals also with the access control for the user who's doing the query, that it kind of gets that correct. If you put the data into the model, everybody would have access to the data. So we still use RAG. After that, we are currently exploring more about APIs and agents, but it is not robust enough yet for us. But you would have to have the concept of memory and a task and a strategy. So instead of just saying a prompt, it has a strategy to solve a problem. It will do multiple prompts and then come back with an answer. And for that intermediate state in between the kind of requests, it keeps the memory as such to work as a workspace of the intermediate results. So then you can have things like a sales GPT who automates the whole sales process. But in our case, we do not trust it enough just to use it. You can also do it for development, but we do not trust it yet. But it is coming, and it's just getting better all the time. And one of the concepts that I want to bring in, and I liked this tweet, is that when agents will become better, you need to stop thinking on building a thing, but build a thing that builds the thing. So you go one level of automation higher, that you describe what you want, and that system is actually building the thing for you. We're not there yet, but it is improving every day. So it's going to be the next thing. There's going to be a lot of investment in there. But we also learned that it needs a lot of context. So everything a user does, everything a user clicks on will become context. And that needs to be a lot faster accessible than just being in the data lake. So there's quite some challenges to solve this. To bring all of this together, you typically use an orchestration framework that, on the one hand, takes the data, the prompt, the API, and the model, and turns them into reusable components like code libraries or similar. Some of the popular ones are LangChain, Llama Index, or Semantic Kernel on Windows. And think of it as your middleware framework that you don't have to rewrite over and over again. And it also allows you to build abstraction on the model. If you change to another provider, you can change it. If you change to another vector database, you can change it. So it gives you like a level of abstraction to combine all that stuff. There is still a lot of research going on. And in particular, I want to highlight DSPY. I said that whenever you change something in a prompt, it is very sensitive when you change something. But when you change a model, it's also very sensitive. DSPY is starting to work on a solution that will take your prompt and then optimize or rewrite your prompt for the model that you're using. So all the pain of you having to understand what is the best querying, what is the best prompting for that model is starting to go away. So we are now going from a manual craft to a more engineered solution to solve this problem. It is because all the things changed so fast, the engineers did not like the frameworks because the frameworks were changing all the time. And they did not have the time to always keep up with the frameworks. But I am a strong believer that the only way to keep up will be the framework. Because every time they will bring on something new in the ecosystem. It is very similar to when you write a web server in Node.js. Of course, you can do it yourself. But if you write it through Express or like a middleware, it will come with authentication, it will come with so many extra things. So I'm a strong believer that frameworks are important to use. I've talked about doing this with code, but you also see that people are starting to use declarative things. We are used to this with infrastructure as code. Like people are now doing a similar thing with just specifying what they want. In this case, it is serialized into a JSON that defines the whole model, API, and prompt together. The same thing for Ollama. You see very similar to a Docker file from the model, and then you change the prompt of the model. So it's declarative, changing, and not having to do this in code. And with fine tuning, very similar, one YAML file, it contains all the parameters to do this. So the This is, again, going to be declarative, programmatic, depending on what you want to do. All right, so we got all the pieces on the board. Now we're trying to deliver this. How do we do versioning? How do we do a build pipeline? We found that we look at it as one release. When we change a prompt, we have a new release. When we change part of the data, it's a new release. So we're treating this as one big change all the time. The hardest part is making it testing. And I mentioned that you change 1 comma, 1 space, you have to retest over again. In the first months, you do all of this manually, and then you say, never again. Therefore, it is important to have a test set of inputs and outputs that you want to test, and do this over and over again. What is different than traditional testing is that it is not exact. Exact will be kind of the number of words will be 20, but how do I know that the answer is a good answer? It is not something that you can quantify with kind of coding. So that is a challenge to test. So we want to do this from manual to automated. And on the left, there's the exact testing. You can test patterns in the output. Does it contain a certain word or similar? Then we can use another model, not a large model, but a helper model that has been trained on, is this, a toxic text? Is it a good answer? So you use a helper model to do this. You can also check whether the question and the answer are related enough with another model. And we can use another LLM to ask if the answer of this LLM was good. So this is the ways that people have been testing. And of course, as a last resort, we are just going to ask a human. But we know that does not scale. But those are like the different ways people think about either exact testing, use a helper model, or use other large language model to test this. And there's many quality metrics that you can test for security, privacy, the text relevancy, the sentiment. So you can put a lot of those quality metrics in. So we make this data set of the source or the input and then the output, and then we run it either through an LLM or like a human evaluation to test this. We learned that it is very similar to traditional releases. If you think about this and you have your test data set, it is challenging because we're not used to that kind of undeterministic testing. It is also very much slower than our typical unit tests in your CI/CD pipeline. And sometimes you would want to have GPU access, which is something that is also not easy to get in a CI pipeline. So those are a little bit of the struggles of trying to make this work in the organization. And kind of that confidence of the test is super important. So we tested it. We are happy with the application. We put it into production. And now we want to operate this. There's a lot of different layers, like the middleware, the model, and all the things that we want to keep monitoring in production. In the beginning, all the traditional monitoring vendors would give you a dashboard with, how many tokens are you using? How many dollars have you used? What is your latency? And that is a very traditional metric that we are using. But LLM have a few technical extra metrics, like the time to first token. So it's like the responsiveness of the model or the application, and the time per output token. So if you see this being generated, how fast is it being generated? And the latency and the throughput. So those are like extra new metrics that you would monitor in production. And I mentioned the quality metrics like toxicity or specific text metrics. You also are monitoring these in production. For example, if you're using the OpenAI GPT-4, if they change the model, you will see that your metrics will change. You will not be able to see this otherwise, but if you keep monitoring that, it will definitely help. This one is very similar to OpenTelemetry, but it is sending similar metrics so it's a commercial trace loop, but it has like an open source OpenTelemetry metric to send that to your dashboards. And then you can do other security metrics, like is there a PII, personal information in there? Do we need to block certain information? So those are other, because we're dealing with text and we do not want to leak information that we do not want to leak. And I mentioned before, like you can either use a model or an LLM. So how do I check that the text that is being generated is not like violating certain rules? So again, I can use a model that has been specifically trained for detecting personal information, or I can use another LLM. And in this case, I give it the personality of a known security researcher. And I ask it, what do you think about this input, this output? Is it a security problem, yes or no? So this is kind of a practical example of this quality metric. And this is to prevent prompt injection. It is not a solved problem. So prompt injection is if you type something in the prompt, but it changes the intended behavior, like it leaks your company secrets, it shows your competitor information, like all those kind of things. But a lot of people are working on solutions to make this better. So because we're sending a lot of text, PII and masking PII is important in production when you operate this. And there is starting more and more the concept of similar to a web application firewall, but an input-output, like a guardrails to filter what goes in and out of your applications as a central service as well. And as each of the generations costs money, and depending on the cost of the money, you also want to cache the results of similar queries to save money. So there's a caching layer there as well. So it just very much like the Kubernetes ecosystem, it just explodes more and more tools. They come and go. So yeah, it's hard to keep up. We also learned that it is not just having the monitoring and seeing that something works or does not work. We need debugging and observability in production as well. I mentioned that when you do a prompt, it is rarely one prompt, it's a series of prompts. So much like you would do traceability across API calls, you would do traceability across a chain of prompts being sent. So this is a solution, Langsmith. You can use it. It's an open source solution that allows you to kind of like trace through the different layers of your prompts. And at the same time, you can also see the quality metrics associated with each of the prompts. So when you're debugging, you can see what input, what data, what are the quality metrics, why was it good when you're debugging this. So this will be a field on its own to do production and monitoring of this. some have called this RAG ops to monitor the inputs, the outputs. We don't know, but for me, it is just regular ops and observability, but with a new kind of domain or a problem space that we need to solve. And we have a lot of practices, like we can do A/B testing. When we do a new rollout, we can change, it's part of the release, so we see whether it's a good prompt or a bad prompt, and we monitor the quality metrics to see what the impact is. And besides all the monitoring, we also capture the end user feedback to know whether the users actually liked it or not, or it was a good response, yes or no. So simple one is thumbs up, thumbs down. If they do try again, we know they probably did not like the answer. If we say copy code, they did like the answer because they want to use it. And if we give them the editor to edit the result, then we can see what they changed. So we're all capturing that feedback per request, per change, per feed thing, that we can actually have a better test set to get a better confidence on when we're changing things. And we learned that you can test all that you want, but it's going to be in production that you have to capture all that information, because people are very creative. There are use cases that you've never seen. So it is important just to keep monitoring that in production. So last part, we got it into production, we got it monitoring, we got a feedback cycle going in there. So what do we do now? Now we train all the engineers, but they are very scared about using AI in their jobs because there is a fear of being replaced. There is a research paper that actually shows you that the culture of the company will determine whether they are really learning about this. So if you have a culture of learning and experimentation, then they will do a better job and they will fear less. But if everything has to be perfect, then they will be really scared about this. So it is very related to your culture of the company. And the other thing that we've seen is that in our company, it started with the data science people being very close to models and building these applications, but they were separate from the engineering. They were used to doing analysis, kind of deep dives, but they were not very close to the engineering practices like monitoring, security, and all those areas. So what we've done is we put some of the people from engineering teams closer to the data science team. And then we kind of made an overlap, and I'll come back to that later. We started having also part of this as the data platform team. So we start moving them closer and closer with engineering practices. So if you already have good DevOps maturity, this will be a lot easier to bring in. But for data scientists, it's a new world, all those kind of practices. And some call this the rise of the AI engineer, which is kind of like a term that people are using for this flavor in between a data scientist and a traditional software engineer. And they call this the shift right. So security was a shift left earlier, but now we want to have the data science people closer to production. So they call it the shift right there. And part of my job was to introduce this to engineering. And you can have a hack week, you can look for partners, educating your engineering teams, you can give them time during innovation days, you have like an example that you bring in. So it is just like any other change that you put in the org, but you have to kind of give them space and time to learn about all that stuff. And the way we are organizing ourselves right now is that We have the platform team, CloudOps, SecOps, developer experience, and data platform. And we are now having some similar to like a single team that is very close to our main use case. So some call this the AI experiences team or like the change team. And we hope that eventually this team will land next to all the others in the AI platform team. We've seen that, caching, monitoring, all those kind of things, they just need governance, they need enablement, they need all the things that we are used to in developer experience and platform engineering. So this is how we are organizing ourselves. And our boss said every team should be building AI products. Not because it is AI, but very much like cloud native, it's going to be AI native when we build these applications. And we learned that to deal with as a business, there's a lot of security controls we need to put in place, but it is not very different than a dependency, which is now an AI model, a prompt, data, and we're already having, with the whole DevSecOps, a lot of dependencies that we're scanning and testing already. To earn the trust, not just from the engineers, but from your business customers, you have to have legal text in place. You have to explain that you can be trusted. You have to explain that you have opt-in, opt-out. But we learned that opt-in, opt-out from features with AI or without AI is expensive because you're basically creating a fork in the product. Because one has to maintain it with AI and one without AI. But if every feature is going to be a fork in your code, it's going to be very costly to maintain. So we came back from the beginning to saying, we are not giving every feature opt-in, opt-out, and we are just making it more clear to our customers that it will be AI, that there is no other option. Yes, they can try, and we will give them all the confidence, but we will not keep building one with AI and one without AI. And there's also, in European Union, there's legislation more and more. What can you do? What can you not do with AI? So as a company, you have to comply to these rules, which is a good thing to do. And we also want to make clear that when we use AI in our use cases, we want it to be humble. So when AI knows so much about the context of your user, it might start blocking certain customers from certain features. But we do not want that, right? So we really want to make sure that when decisions are made, it is for everybody the same decision and not just because the content or the context that we know about that user. So we do not hide AI in our product. We make it very explicit. We have a color specifically indicating it. The icons I mentioned with AI, without AI, make it very explicit so people know it is being generated. We kind of inform the user also when it is being generated. We actually make it that slow of being generated because then it is a cue or that it was not a human, like not an instant result. And this is an interesting test. It's we found that the most useful or like the use cases that were most used is when the end user was able to evaluate the result instantly. If a user could not understand that it was a good or a bad result, we found they were just trying, but people were uneasy about the result. So most of the times when AI generated stuff, and you can verify this, they can verify the output instantly, that had the best results. This is a simple thing you experience in using Copilot today as a programmer. If you're asking it to generate something in a language or programming language you do not know, you try it 5 times and then it fails and you do not know why. If you know the language, then you can verify it, then it actually helps you. But we still need to find money. So in the beginning, nobody had a budget for AI in their product. So what do? It was very expensive, and we could not do it for free. So one of the ways to do it was you need to adapt your pricing strategy. But this is one of the hardest things in a company, is change your pricing strategy. So a lot of companies have just started asking like an AI fee, but it is just something that is a temporary state. Eventually, it will be a feature, has this value, will be kind of this valuable, and they pay extra for this. But in the beginning, there were a lot of people who just got like a metered pricing. So now, a year and a half later, we will have bigger budgets for AI, and we will start like charging for this. But the costs will still rise, but hopefully the return will also rise. We learned that there is a big innovation tax, and I mean that it changes so fast that whatever you're building now is legacy a month later. So you have to do a lot of work to keep up, but you have to do this because you have to learn about this. You can wait, but it is part of your learning experience, but you're paying extra because you're reworking the solution all the time. We will see that part of what we are learning right now will become part of the fabric or the SaaS solution, and that will offer this, but you understand better why it's working, why it's working well. But because it will be commodity, you have to start thinking, what will be the differentiator? It will not be the simple things that everybody can build. What is specific to your domain? So there is an urgency of something we do not know exactly, but it is an urgency that has the potential to do a cost reduction, a more efficient way of working, and we need to invest in this. And a lot of people tell me that they were very late to this DevOps thing, but they do not want to be late to the new AI thing. So a lot of people who have good DevOps practices are early adapters of doing this. But it is not stopping there. This is a solution that starts tracking whatever goes on your screen. It sees, it will analyze, it will capture, it will keep the history of that. So we are seeing a next wave of not just asking a question when we need it, it will be always there. It will record everything you do, your team does, your company does, and we'll start turning this into knowledge that is not going away if one person goes away. Obviously, this brings in new problems because the AI cannot learn all the things that is on your screen, but then we use more AI to solve this. But it is a changing thing. And there is something beyond just asking it a question that it is always there. So on the left, you see a person doing stuff, but very similar to a Google Doc. The AI is there as a partner, and when he thinks he needs to do something, it will just help you, like a teammate. So it's not more passive anymore. It will be just listening when it thinks it needs to do something. So it is very changing, and it will keep on changing. We don't know yet where it will end. So as we are engineers, we will always do over-engineering. We cannot stop ourselves, but that's okay. The hottest new programming language, it was asked, what is your programming language? Might be English or Japanese or whatever. And if you're interested in learning more about this, I have also a course that takes a lot of these things that we do in DevSecOps, and I explain that it is all about the prompt and the text that you need to do. So you can have a look at that repo. And I love to talk about your journey on GenAI and what you learned. So thank you very much for listening. And I'm happy to answer any questions and talk to you later today. Thank you for listening. Any questions? Do I have time? I don't know. Yes. Yes, it is, because if you change any of those things, it will have an effect on all the other pieces. And so if you treat it as one kind of set of releases, you cannot test the prompt on its own without having the API tested with it or the data set that it uses. That's why we use it together for the releases. Yes, good question. Yes. Sure.
The context is that within AI, the usefulness of the model tends to correspond to the breadth and depth of the context that you see. When it comes to AI, inputs as data, when correlated with other data points, tend to turn into secrets. So, for example, my bank knows that I have just withdrawn 500 US from an ATM. My phone knows my real-time location. Neither of those are necessarily secrets, but when put together, I want them treated like secrets. How are we ready for that sort of data paradigm with models as we move forward?
So the remark was, if you combine multiple sources and multiple parts of the AI data, that you can do extract information or knowledge that you're not supposed to do when you see each of the individual points. I think the best defense I've seen so far is the input and output filtering using the LLM shield or the input output that is allowed to go out. So this will see that certain information is not allowed to go make certain decisions and should be filtering that. The problem, as you say, is that it is not perfect. And the resilience about this kind of like security, I think we still have a lot of work to have layers that it gets in or out or who uses certain things and combinations. But I have not seen any good solutions yet. Thank you. Any more questions? All right. Thank you very much.
Use the mic, sorry.
Hey, one more question. You mentioned using AI as part of the validation process, both like a smaller model and a bigger model. There's this kind of topic that there's been a lot of talk about how the AI model can degrade when you use AI generated output to train an AI, basically. So is there some concern that you're going to see a similar effect using an AI model to test the accuracy of an AI model?
So your comment of AI being trained by AI and the data sets being retrained, it is an actual issue. But what I've seen most of the time is that when the LLM checking the other LLM is that they are like trained differently on different qualities. But the concern about having models train a model has been acknowledged, and a lot of people training the models are now avoiding this, and they keep to the data sources that have not been generated by an automatic generation tool. But it is indeed a challenge.
Thank you.
Yeah. One more.
So you mentioned that the pace is really quick, right? So like we're struggling to keep up, but you also mentioned that you think it's going to be like a lot of these things are going to become commodity. So do you think that sort of exponential innovation will continue, or do you think that we'll reach some sort of saturation point, right? Like, is it a level that it stays at for half a decade or whatever?
I do not have a crystal ball. I do not know. Like, change rate is not indicative for future change rate. I think what I've seen is that a year and a half ago, I had slides with academic information. And I've never seen in my life to be seen like this academic into production features in like a year. There's still way more academic comic, but whether that's going to flatten or no, I don't know. I do believe that if we achieve more of the agents and that uncertainty, that will unlock like a new wave of usefulness, not just having questions and answers. It will be more embedded in a workflow. It will be doing things on our behalf. Like, those are new paradigm changes in use cases that we are not able to predict how that's going to work. Yes. I will repeat, it's fine. Sure. Yeah. So the question was more on the differences: ML ops, DevOps, AI ops. No, there's many of those kind of flavors. ML ops has existed for a while, and it was a lot more about getting the right data in the model, and all the tooling they have used for some reason was a little bit further away from the DevOps tooling. The concept of training and validating and feedback, and even in production monitoring the features, it is very similar. But for some reason, the tool set got split, or not enough attention in the traditional software engineering and the data engineering. This, with the GenAI applications, I am not a data scientist, and I do not need to be a data scientist, but I can build GenAI applications because this is about integration, data, APIs, memory, a lot of other stuff. So that's why I think this one is much closer to the traditional DevOps world. But I don't know whether it will become mainstream or will become its own community. So that's too soon. So when I mentioned that it will extend the platform team, this is something we're trying. Is this how every company will operate? Will they keep it separate? Will they keep it in the data science team? I do not know. But it is much more about integration and coding than ML was about training data as such. Thank you. Any more? Yeah. Yeah. So the question is like, if you want to, I mentioned about showing the end user that it is being generated by AI, or it might be uncertain as the output. Do you do that same thing for internal usage? I believe yes, because it is also customers and it is internal. And I think it's important, let's say if I'm engineering and I am on call and I get certain information, I want to know whether that has been generated or it was a manual person typing this as information. Both could be wrong, both could be right, but the hint that I know it was generated would now trigger me more on saying, okay, I maybe need to verify this better. So I would not make the distinction on internal and external there, because we're both end users of the systems there. All right. Next one. Thank you.
ありがとうございました。これからホールの方にお弁当が出ておりますので、ランチタイムとなります。午後の開始は1時から13時からになりますので、よろしくお願いします。